All right, so this video is going to be on how not to be a potato. Um, I myself identify as a potato. I think that the sooner you realize that you are not hot stuff and that there are plenty of things that you could get better at and that you can learn, that's when life opens up to you. And so hopefully I could share some advice here. How not to be a potato, a collection of thoughts by a proud potato lifer. Let's go ahead and begin. I think the first thing I'd want to try to engender or to encourage in students is to accept certain things. Number one, you got to put your pride at the door. Talent doesn't mean nothing. Okay, I've seen so many times where a parent especially would come in and say, "Oh, my son is so talented. My daughter is so talented." Talent means nothing, y'all. It means nothing without work. There's always something you can learn. You can always do something better. And ultimately, no matter where you are in life, you are never your final form. You can always become something bigger, something stronger, something smarter. I love the NBA. I hope that I could give a reference to that. Kevin Durant, all-time beastly offensive player, um, literally unguardable, I would say. But he has this. I think it's when he was winning. I think when the MVP, he said, um, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard." That's why you don't want to ever rely on being talented as you go through in life, and that's why parents, especially, please don't tell your son or daughter you're so talented. That actually has more often than not a reverse effect. If you are being told as a student yourself that you are so talented, okay, don't take that and rely on that. Don't let that balloon your ego because, again, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. There's a rule in the NBA. There's this motivational video that I show some of my students. If you want to make it big in life, you got to work hard, you got to work smart, and you got to work consistent. You need all three. Working hard is like going to the gym early in the morning, shooting free throws, right? 1,000 free throws. But then you also have to work smart. And what I mean by that is you can't be just practicing SAT questions, hitting the same head again and again, getting a 1300. All right. You got to look at your mistakes. You got to spend the time to frame it up play by play. What could I have done better this time? Right? What's one thing I could have noticed that I can do in the next practice run so I can avoid making the same mistake? Right? And then it's a matter of working consistent. Our brains, biologically, we're not meant to be one-hit wonders. We benefit so much from repetition, from consistency, from being able to recognize patterns. And so work hard, work smart, work consistent. You keep that motto in your life, you're gonna go whatever you do in life, you're gonna succeed. All right. If you say that you're talented, whatever you do in life, I don't think I could give you that guarantee you'll succeed. You have to be, along with talented, especially if you want to reach the highest echelons, you got to work hard, you got to work smart, you got to work consistent. I would put more money on the kid who does hard work than is talented. It's okay to make mistakes. I feel like this is oftentimes not taught enough, especially in more competitive growing up cultures, growing up environments. You got to get home the A, otherwise you get in trouble. And to a certain degree, I feel very responsible for in my position as a counselor to help parents understand that this isn't the way to do it. It's okay to make mistakes. We practice to make mistakes. We make mistakes to be able to learn. All right. So don't be ashamed of making mistakes so long as you're willing to put in the time to learn from them. All right. If you're making mistakes again and again and it's the same thing over and over, okay, now we have a problem. Now you're not working smart. But if you make a mistake and the intent is to learn, as your counselor, I don't really care that you made a mistake so long as you learn from it. All right. The pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. The optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty. You're going to sooner realize that if you embrace this mindset, there are going to be people out there that you know are going to be toxic just because you realize what they're doing. Okay? They're going to be making the same mistakes again. They're going to be blaming other people. They're going to be doing things that you can see from your point of view is not something that shows personal growth. And to that effect, when you make a mistake, I just want to clarify, you need to spend the time to identify what you could have done better. So don't blame others. Don't blame your teammates. Don't say, oh, well, it's because my teacher sucked or my teacher had this on the test, that blah, 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 blah. I've heard it all. All right. The stud kid, the champ of a student, regardless of whether he or she has an A in the class or not, the champ student to me is a student who realizes I could be smarter about this. I could work harder about this. I could be more consistent in my practice for this. All right. No matter how valid it is of an excuse, at the end of the day, an excuse is an excuse. The process is simple. Identify what you could do better. Develop a solution. Hey, next time around, when I see this type of question type, I'm going to first check this. Or if I realize that there's this transition word that's really important, I'm going to pay attention to that transition word the next time I do this critical reading passage. Anything like that can really help you. But develop a solution. Don't just blindly take in the solution from the back of an answer sheet. Think for yourself, what could I do better that can make it more likely to avoid the same mistake next time? Ask for advice. I can't imagine how many people I know my age that are so ingrained in their ways, so prideful, that they don't ask for advice from the people that they should. And I can understand why. It's very hard to. I think I'm definitely an example of that in some aspects, in many aspects. But for students especially, when you're young, you got to find people that are at a higher level than you. And you got to ask them for advice. Not to say that those who are higher level will always give you good advice. And it's not to say that those who are higher level will give you advice that's good for you specifically. But just to know and just to have the modesty, the humility to ask for advice, I think is very important. And last but not least, commit to applying your solutions. Once you go through this routine, the next time you take that practice test, all right, let's say it's the SAT, review what you identified as the solutions you're going to try to apply for the next run. I'm going to check for this next time. I'm going to check for this next time. You should have a troubleshooting guide in everything you do if you want to try to improve. Practice, review, learn, apply, and repeat. I feel like a lot of students, a lot of potatoes, young potatoes, need to realize that their mind is like a muscle, right? You have to continue to work on developing the strength of your mind. There's a 40% rule in the Navy SEALs. The 40% rule is simple. When your mind is telling you that you're done, that you're exhausted, that you cannot possibly go any further, you're only actually 40% done. I can't imagine how many times I ran across a student who just felt and would exclaim, right, articulate as verbally as possible, I'm done. This is the limit of what I can do. And I just sit there and I think, really, kid? Come on. It ain't that bad. You haven't seen nothing yet. So always remember, if you feel like you're at your limits, chances are, the likelihood is, you're only 40% there. You could push harder. Growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Okay. There's a lot of different kinds of diagrams like these. I just pulled one off of a Google search. I really like this one because it's simple and you can take a look at it for yourself. But both as a student, we should be, and parents. So for students, we need to be striving towards a growth mindset. And that inherently requires you to be humble, inherently requires you to look at things like an optimist, to look at challenges as opportunities. For parents, if you tell them, oh, you're so talented, you're going to become an amazing doctor one day, right? Or you're so amazing, it's just that you don't put any work into it. Or, you know, my son is more of a math person. He's not really an English and critical reading person. If you do that, you are setting a fixed boundary. You're setting a fixed mindset. You got to stop doing that. We need to encourage growth. For students, if your parents tell you things like that, realize where they're coming from, understand and see where they're coming from. But at the end of the day, stick to the growth mindset and you will succeed. Question might be, Jay, I get all this, but I just don't care. I feel too lazy. I don't want to do any of it. Why do you think that's the case? Usually it's these three main points. Number one, it's because you're taking your privileges for granted, right? Your parents are driving fancy cars, living in Orange County, multi-million-dollar home. You're not going to really understand the value of a dollar. And to that effect, what's the solution? It's tough to say. But one day, sooner or later, you realize the privilege that you have. And you're going to realize that that privilege was either used to the greatest effect or you squandered it. And more often than not, I run into students that squander it. So I don't really have a solution for this, but I know the point of it. The point being, why are you lazy? It's usually because you're taking your privileges for granted. So maybe more on the parenting side, parents, please try to not spoil your kids too much. Make them earn things. Travel, see the world. It sounds a little cliche to go on a missions trip, but missions trip can be eye-opening if it's done in the right way. If you force them to go, I'm not sure if they'll have the right mindset. But if you guys go along and you're able to articulate some points in a good way, I think maybe you can start to share or show the sense of privilege that people have. Number two, you're probably lazy, perhaps because you're escaping into something that's easier, whether that's video games or social media or other forms of fantasy. Essentially, fantasies like why do we watch a lot of TV shows? A lot of those TV shows, if you really look at the archetype of the story and the protagonist, they're fantasies of someone who wants to become a hero or someone who starts off as a nerd and then becomes the prom queen. They're fantasies. All right. We're escaping into them. And for that 2 hours to 2 weeks to 3 months or whatever, you're going to feel good about it. But in those 2 hours to 3 months, 3 years that you're into this fantasy, you're going to realize that your real life has just been rotting away. Number three, surround yourself with and accepting complacency. I've seen so many people throughout my life that settle. And there's a tricky boundary as to when you can identify that. And sometimes it's fine and it's not something I hold against people. But when you're in high school, when you're a student, and you're already complacent about where you're at in life, bro, the game just has started. Life has just begun. And so if you're especially in high school and feeling complacent, I can call you out and can tell you, you haven't even touched the beginning of your growth potential and you're being complacent. You're surrounding yourself with people who are Discord messaging you to escape into a fantasy, right? And you'd rather do that because it's easier. You feel stronger in it. You feel smarter in it than compared to doing the real grind in life to get a better test score grade or to strive to go into a better university. Surrounding yourself with complacency has a lot to do with who you surround yourself with, your friends, your peers. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that. Concluding thoughts. I think that when I meet with students, when I meet with people, when I meet with anyone, one of the qualities I look for, or the questions I kind of ask, is how coachable are they? And you could see a lot right away by just little mannerisms. So for example, when you present them with something new and they'll be like, I got it. When there's a person right next to them who can teach them 2 years of advanced tips and experience because they've already got 1,000 hours into something, right? Or when there's a problem and they don't know how to solve the problem, but they're unwilling to try or taking an advice of a different approach, right? Or to even be open-minded to the idea of that, or to ask others, hey, what would you do in this scenario? Instead, they're focusing on what they would do, right? Being coachable, I think, is huge. I think that so long as you are coachable, no matter where you are in life, you have a chance. The problem is, though, there's many people in this world now that, whether it's a matter of pride, whether it's a matter of fixed mindset, whether it's a matter of a weak mentality, they are just uncoachable. They're not willing to be coached. The barrier to their coachability is very resistant. And so to that effect, if I can encourage one thing out of anyone who's still at the end of this video and watching, strive to be coachable. All right, that's all I had. I'm going to probably pull out another video, probably start dumping into more of the UC applications, the UC essays, which can take some time, but I'm going to try to commit to that. All right, guys, thank you so much. Have a good one.